Good afternoon and welcome. It's Charlie Kaplan with Brainware. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. We've titled Document Process Automation. Brighter Lights Are Imminent. Today's speakers are Ron Glass, who's the Program Director at IDC, and Holly Muscolina, who's a Research Director with IDC. They've prepared a presentation that I think you're going to find quite compelling today that includes both high-level view of the market as well as some detailed research that they've done at IDC. And so I think the findings of that and the general trends and strategies that they're going to present to you today will be quite compelling. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Holly.
Hi, thank you, Charlie, and thank you, everyone out there. I'm really happy to be here with you today, and I appreciate the opportunity. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. I'm going to start off the session by taking a look at why it's critical that we evaluate our document-intensive workflows for ways to add greater efficiencies. Then I'm going to hand the mic over to Ron, who's going to take a quick look at some IDC research showing just where we are today, where we still need some work, and how we see this all playing out in the future. And then finally, I'm going to come back and finish up with some recommendations on finding your document automation partner. We're going to start by reviewing the challenges presented by business-critical document workflows today, and I'm sure a lot of this is going to be familiar to quite a few of you. So we all know that businesses exchange information on a daily basis with their employees, customers, suppliers, partners, and a whole range of other stakeholders. Today, many businesses are geographically dispersed, including both remote and home workers, and even workers who are moving in between facilities within an organization's campus. Now, technology's enabled this distributed network of stakeholders to access, to modify, and to contribute to business information. Also, frequently, the expectation is for documents, information, and data to be available in real time and accessible through a myriad of applications and devices, which includes not only PCs, but smartphones, tablets, and so forth. Now, when we add regulatory agencies to the picture, it further complicates things. Document-intensive business processes can be viewed from a departmental perspective, such as accounting processes, finance, human resources, legal, or they can be associated with specific verticals. For example, admission processing and patient management in the healthcare industry. This slide that you're looking at is just showing you a handful of examples of document-intensive but mission-critical business processes. Well, we're going to try to keep today's session interactive, and so we have a few poll questions thrown in, and here's our first one. The question is, which of the following document types would derive the most benefit from automation in your organization? And we're going to give you a minute, and then we'll take a look at the results. And here's our response, and it looks like overwhelmingly you're saying invoices and other accounting documents, which really is, I believe, in agreement with a lot of our research, and Ron will get into that a little later, followed by contracts and legal documents, and then sales orders and claims and insurance documents are tied, but well after our accounting type documents. All right, so businesses have been driven by people and processes for quite some time. That's nothing new. But here's the crux of the problem. The pace of business has increased rapidly, and the amount of information that's being created continues to increase exponentially. And even though, as we all know, we're more connected than we ever were before, a great deal of this information still resides in disconnected silos that are separated by different business functions, different data repositories, and disparate legacy applications. There are many systems that are producing both structured and unstructured data, including enterprise applications such as ERP and CRM, and collaborative applications. And in addition to paper, documents are exchanged via fax, email, instant messaging, and social networks. So the result is an information explosion that threatens to impede business rather than to facilitate its growth. I'm sure all of you have experienced this in both your personal and your professional lives. Now, since 2007, IDC has been sizing what it calls the digital universe, which is the amount of digital information created and replicated in a year. Now, of course, this includes non-business content, such as videos and music and so forth, in addition to business content. Now, this research shows that in 2009, despite the global recession, the digital universe grew 62% to nearly a zettabyte. Now, a zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes. To give you some perspective, 1 trillion seconds is longer than recorded history, or about 32,000 years. This year, the digital universe will grow almost as fast to 1.2 zettabytes. And at this rate, by 2020, our digital universe will be 44 times as big as it was in 2009, growing to 35 zettabytes. So what does all of this mean? Well, with all this data, with all this information, how are we going to find the information that we need when we need it? How do we know what we need to keep and how long we need to keep it? How do we follow the growing number of government and industry rules about retaining records, tracking transactions, and ensuring privacy? And above all, how do we maintain the security of this information? Now, if we can't answer these questions effectively, just what does it mean for our business? We'll likely see higher costs due to lower employee productivity and increased error rates. Compliance with government and industry regulations will continue to be a challenge, and it'll be difficult to keep on top of security. And we haven't even touched on sustainability. What happens to all that paper? Paper is a huge problem, not only in terms of sustainability, but also in terms of productivity, compliance, and security. Even today, half the information used by knowledge workers still resides in paper documents, which contributes to inefficient processes. Now, it's obvious that this paper needs to be digitized so the information can be shared, repurposed, and utilized more efficiently. However, even that digitization process itself is often highly inefficient. Frequently, we see documents are scanned, printed out, and then retyped just to get them into a different system. So there's a lot of manual activity still going on. Here's some data that quantifies the cost of all of that inefficient information management. If you look at the middle column of this chart, it shows the average number of hours workers spend per week for various document-related tasks, such as searching for information, reformatting documents, recreating content, managing information between multiple applications, or even managing different versions or different languages. IDC estimates that on average, these types of inefficiencies are costing organizations over $22,000 annually per worker. And now that cost doesn't even take into consideration that are expenditures that are related to inadequate security, to not meeting certain regulations, or managing all that excess paper. So that's all the bad news. The good news is that solutions do exist today that enable businesses to optimize their business-critical document workflows. One of the primary goals for deploying a document management solution is cost reduction by eliminating all those expensive inefficiencies that we were just talking about, by minimizing errors, reducing paper usage, and reducing paper storage. These systems also facilitate compliance and support sustainability. But in addition to reducing costs, they can also impact top-line growth by improving time to market and enhancing customer communications, which can result in higher satisfaction and higher retention. Today's document management systems help automate paper-based and digital document workflows. For example, intelligent capture solutions can enhance document images for further processing. Data extraction can enable categorization of scanned and electronic documents so they can be automatically routed for downstream processes, which eliminates the need for manual sorting and routing. Content management provides access to documents and provides tools for collaboration. And now when you add workflow automation to all of this, it minimizes the need for human interaction or intervention. In fact, one of my colleagues draws a distinction between technologies that simply create what she calls a workflow-enabled process and those that create an exception-based workflow. In other words, a workflow that only requires human intervention for exceptions. Obviously, the benefits of this latter type of workflow automation far outweighs the former in terms of efficiency, in terms of cycle time, error reduction, overall business agility, and ultimately measurable return on investment. Well, now I'm going to hand the mic over to Ron, and he's going to go through some data with you and look at exactly where we are today in terms of using these technologies.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. So Holly took you through IDC's view of paper's impact on business. In the next 10-15 minutes, I'm going to take you a little bit deeper and show you some data that will help you understand how paper is being converted to digital in today's business world, and what we expect to see coming down the pipeline in 5 years in terms of paper to digital conversion. Let's go to the first slide that we have there. We've conducted a study. We conduct a lot of studies here at IDC, but we've conducted one at the end of last year that focused on understanding the business utilization of the capture solutions that they have within their facilities. We basically went out and reached out to individuals that either manage the processes, were involved in the processes of deploying a solution like this, and manage one or two within either the department or within the company. And we asked them, the first question we asked them was, you know, is your department or company replacing or about to replace paper-based business workflow documents with electronic ones? And the results are pretty obvious here. You can see in the red bars indicates that they have deployed a digital solution in the company, and the blue bars are those that say they did not convert to digital at all. You can see that, you know, for overall, the average of 25% of respondents report that their company has converted paper-based business processing workflows to digital. But yet, on the other hand, close to 40% of the respondents say that they have not, which is a big chunk of opportunity out there that has not taken control or has not adopted or deployed what they've been talking about for the past 10 years. All I've been hearing about is how companies are trying to streamline the business process, how companies are trying to make things more efficient, reduce costs, and so forth, yet none of them really have adopted a digital solution which, based on our research, shows that there's a dramatic ROI by deploying a paper to digital conversion process. What we do see also is that in the large businesses, it's equally amount of businesses have deployed a solution as those that said that they did not, to differ from medium and small businesses that by far more of them have not deployed any paper to digital solutions at all. This question really looks at the workflow. Have they replaced paper with digital? And we have about, I think about 9 or 10 different workflows here. The 3 largest ones that are replaced have been knowledge and general office worker document workflows, purchasing, billing, and invoicing document workflows, and human resource document workflows tend to be the leading one. But as you can see, even the leading workflows have only hit the tip of the iceberg. Really, there's a tremendous opportunity still available across the board with all the workflows, whether we're talking about medical documents, financial applications, insurance documents, and so forth. Those have barely reached 20–25% of respondents saying that they have deployed that. So there's a great opportunity here still in the adoption or the replacement of paper with digital, kind of confirming exactly what Holly is saying in terms of vendors really still working with paper in today's world. The next question that we asked was, what's the routing? Everybody talks about we like to get all our documents into an ERP system to the back office. We're trying to get it to CRM and so forth. Well, this data shows really that the market is really not doing that. That for the most part, the top 3 things that respondents are saying that they're doing with the image once it's captured is either scan to email, scan to a network folder for sharing, or scan to archiving. All 3 of them tend to be equivalently utilized in today's market. But it's interesting to note that the number 4 is automated workflow. This is leaving us to believe that automated workflow document solution will be the next wave of adoption. We see that as the future of where things are going, that people are actually going to take advantage of the technology that's out there and adopt a solution that's going to do exactly what they want, and that's reduce cost by eliminating the touching of the paper and taking it out and manually entering information. Once again, to keep things a little bit exciting, we have a quick poll here, a poll question, and basically we're asking you to choose the statement that best describes the document capture process that takes place in your office or company. Okay, and the results are 64% of you say scan for manual indexing and data entry is the number 1. And if we go to our next slide, you'll see that you are exactly what our data shows from our research, that the bottom part of the graph shows scan to post-capture back-end process for manual indexing and data entry. Here we had close to 40% of respondents saying that. But again, this confirms Holly's comments regarding the fact that people are still using manual entry to get data into a digital format instead of taking advantage of the technology out there. The top bars are where we're looking at automation taking place, and you can see again it's one of the smaller ones, but you can see that it's more advanced in larger companies than it is in medium-sized companies. Here's another poll. This one is asking which of the following are or would be significant barriers for your company in investing in technologies that automate document processing. Okay, and the results are, which is quite interesting, very, very similar, but not as quite similar. Here, IT resource constraints is 39%, and cost too high is 36%, followed by too hard, expensive to integrate is 27%. So that's a little different from what we had, but very close. In our slides, cost too high represents about 35%. And IT resources is actually third at about 30%, but very, very close in terms of where the audience has indicated that their issues are as well. So basically, this slide shows that many respondents believe that automating appears to be more expensive than just continuing to use paper and manual processes. There's also concerns about constraints on IT resources and so forth. So there still are some issues with the whole process of automating your solution, but these issues need to be resolved so that the market can accept automation and begin taking advantage of these technologies as they are today. So let's move on to looking into the future. Where are things going to be 5 years out from now? And on our first slide, how is data entered today? And I'm trying to understand how respondents expect data entry to be changed in the next 5 years. So on the left side is today's market, and we have three answers for them: manual data entry for hard copy from hard copy documents, scanning hard copy documents for data entry, and document is created in digital format and processed electronically. As you can see, the top two are either manual data entry or scanning a hard copy. But if we look 5 years out and go to the right side of the chart, you can see that there's a big flip specifically with manual data entry. The manual data entry and digitally entering the data electronically into electronic format, those two seem to, one's taken over for the other. Scanning did lose a little bit. It went down from about 32 to about 29% of respondents. But most of the transitions really taking place from manual data entry to data entry onto a keyboard. And this one is, again, looking at the future paper to digital solutions. And here we're looking, asking individuals, where are you scanning the documents? And then what are you doing with the documents that once they're scanned, in terms of, is your software extracting the data? Is it just going to a back office and so forth? And I'd like to point out actually to the top bar, the red is present and the yellow is future. Across the board, excluding outsourcing, all of the processes are growing. But the top one is really focusing on automation. And I thought that that's an interesting one to look at, considering the topic of today is automation. And you can see that 20 respondents use the solution today, and it's expected to grow to about 32% in the future. I won't be surprised if in 5 years from now we ask this question again, and the number of respondents that actually say that they have adopted automated solution far exceeds the 32%. This seems to be just walking the floors and talking to various vendors out there and to various users out there. It seems to be that this is the hottest topic of today's market. Okay, and if we go to this slide, this is the last slide. This is basically every year IDC puts out a prediction of things that are happening. I thought that the key takeaway from here is the last sentence in this thing, that we need to facilitate the process to get the right content to the right person at the right time. I think that's the key message that we're trying to get across, is that there's so much information out there that without having the right solutions, we're not going to be able to get the right information to the right person at the right time, and that could cost a lot of business for a lot of individuals out there in the market. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Holly.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, so to wrap up, we're just going to take a look at some recommendations for evaluating document management solutions partners. Now, one more data slide. This one actually comes from the same study that Ron was just discussing, and we talked to respondents who already owned a capture solution, and we asked them, when you look at the next capture purchase, what are going to be the things that are the three most important attributes that are going to be of greatest importance to you? And not surprisingly, security and auditability led the way. But then if you look at the next two frequently mentioned attributes, they're related to capturing and processing documents for end-to-end automation to reduce or eliminate these manual tasks. So when you're looking for a partner, IDC recommends that, first of all, you need to find someone who understands your business. So look for a partner with the process and the vertical knowledge to help you identify and automate the key business document workflows across your organization, so that eventually you can enable all departments to leverage your data assets. Of course, in order to do this, you have to make sure that the solution is scalable so that it can include all business-critical document workflows in the organization. Now, you have to make sure that the tools are available to provide adequate IT control, but at the same time, you want to enable your line of business users to change those solutions in response to changing business conditions, perhaps changing regulations, and so forth. And it's also important to display data to those individuals in their desired format and at the appropriate experience level, and also just give them the data that they need. You have to, of course, make sure that the technology integrates with your other business critical applications like your ERP and ECM systems. And finally, it's important to look at leveraging the cloud and mobile technologies for optimal impact as these technologies begin to mature. So the bad news is, as we said at the beginning of this presentation, that the amount of business critical information is growing exponentially, and the sources of that information are rapidly evolving almost daily. Now the good news is that the technologies available today to manage that information across the enterprise and to automate document-intensive business processes, both for top-line growth as well as for bottom-line results. Now, the Agile enterprise will leverage this technology to organize and manage information for increased business value and better business outcomes. And now, to wrap up, I'd like to just hand the floor back over to Charlie.
That's great. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Ron. That's fascinating. I think that's great insight. It's actually mind-staggering to think about the volumes of information and certainly the concept of a zettabyte, let alone 20 zettabytes and so forth. Just a little bit of background on Brainware. Brainware is a software company. We're focused in the data extraction and search market spaces. We do business from a headquarters office that's just outside of Washington, D.C., although we've got sales presence across the U.S., and we do about half of our business with clients outside the U.S. over in Europe and the U.K. The technology was designed from the ground up to process unstructured information without the use of templates, zones, anchors, keywords, and so forth. So it really provides a compelling solution for organizations that really are faced with mounting data volumes, paper-based electronic transactions that otherwise need to be manually keyed into back-end systems in their organization. We're very proud of the company that we keep in terms of customers that we do business with, and these companies span around the globe. They tend to be very large organizations that have very complex document and data capture needs and really span across vertical industries. So from manufacturing to banking and financial services, energy, oil and gas, and the likes, we really, really are proud to have worked with and continue to work with some of the largest global brands. And then finally, the reason that the companies on the prior list do select Brainware for data capture needs really boils down to three reasons that I like to think of. Is one, for data extraction, our Brainware Distiller application is able to capture more data off of documents than any other application in the market space today. We routinely work with customers to help them achieve data extraction rates of anywhere from 90 to 99% of their data, fields of data lifted automatically. The simple benefit being there's no more keying, so it reduces the number of keystrokes that are required to enter that information into transactional systems on the back end, your ERP system, your CRM system, as well as your imaging and your content management systems. In addition, though, just to simply cutting the cost and reducing the keystrokes, there's tangible benefit in improving cycle times, so faster recognition of that information. For example, in financial services and financial operations can help you realize early payment discounts on supplier invoices more quickly, turn around orders more quickly, which obviously drives improved customer satisfaction and the likes. In addition, the platform is scalable. And so while a number of the customers on the prior slide are using our Brainware Distiller application to help automate areas like accounts payable, we also have deployed it for very large organizations to help them sort the mail in the mailroom, to automate accounts receivable, both as lockbox providers as well as billers that are processing checks and remittance statements, purchase to pay, order to cash for purchase order processing, and the likes. And so it's a single solution that can process really multiple document types that may be flowing through your organization. In addition to being scalable in terms of document types, it's scalable in terms of volume. So we've got customers that process hundreds of documents a day. We've got customers that process thousands and tens of thousands of pages a day. And we have customers that quite literally process millions of pages a day. And so from a scalability standpoint, the volume, again, is unsurpassed in terms of handling unstructured, complex documents. And then finally, because of the intelligence that's built into the brainware software applications, it sets up very quickly. And so we routinely, again, work with firms that once they make the decision to automate, it's really about time to implementation, time to rollout so that you can start to return the investment very quickly. And because of the intelligence that's built into the application, it sets up quickly, which means your organizations can start to return that value very, very quickly as well. Okay, so with that, I want to thank both Holly and Ron for doing their webinar today. That was fantastic content. I know they have deep, deep expertise in this, both as individuals, but more broadly as part of the IDC organization. IDC organization is obviously a world-class organization in terms of the research and content that they provide. And for those of you who are members, I know you take advantage of that. And for those of you who aren't, I strongly recommend that you tap into the IDC resources. So I want to thank both Holly and Ron. I want to thank everybody on the line for joining us today. If you do have questions that occur to you after the following of the presentation, then don't hesitate to reach out, send us an email, and we'll be happy to follow up with you.